I have very mixed feelings myself. Like
Yeah.
I believe that Iran absolutely has a right to defend themselves. I believe that this is an illegal war, clearly. I'm very upset with what's happening to Tehran and other places. Shiraz, lots of places in the Fars region are being hit, and they're striking the oil reserves, you know. The regime, I'm not a fan of. They've
Right.
oppressed my people. Brutality I've heard about my entire life, and
Yeah.
I don't ignore that, and I won't, out of respect for my family and for people that have endured it, that I know have suffered under this. So with that, I have very mixed feelings. Now, as far as Israel and the US getting pushed
Mhm.
back against, I
Yes.
100% support that, and I do not support this war. And obviously, I do not support a lot of the rhetoric that's around everything regarding this that demonizes the Iranian people as a whole and talks about it's there's a lot of ignorance, of course, and
Really?
Islamophobia, even though I do believe that the religion is used there to oppress, like in so many other countries. We have Christian nationalists right here that do something similar. We have Zionists that utilize that umbrella to oppress people. It's not unique to Islam. Um, so I have mixed feelings, but I'm not sad about them defending themselves against Israel at all,
Yeah.
regardless of how I feel about the regime.
I just think they're finally putting us in our place. And I think that the hubris is always our problem. It really is. It's a huge
Mhm.
problem. I think that we have always underestimated people that we find beneath us. And that's this level of caucasity that I always talk about. And the Iranians are so ready for it. So let's take the politics in terms of the government out for a second, which I refuse to say it's a regime. We're the regime, but let's take that out of it for a second. It's a matter of we have been hurting them and going after them with sanctions and going in involving ourselves in their business for decades. And they've had it. And every time we supposedly negotiate, we kill their negotiators. Clearly, we are incapable of negotiating because we just don't. We, like I said, we negotiate like Bruce Willis in The Fifth Element, right? Like that's not. And it's like watching. If we were watching this as a movie, we'd be saying, yes, please stand up for the rest of the world that has been dealing with these sanctions and dealing with this economic bullying, which is illegal. It's war crimes as well for years. And what they're going to end up doing economically is making the rest of the world feel how they've been feeling and say, see, this is what, and it's brilliant. And so I am here for that in a sense that it's really standing up to empire. And right now, Iran is the only thing really standing up to empire. And as
That's the
that is
same,
like,
right? My people are the sacrificial lambs against this
Yeah.
bulwark.
yes, well,
Every
and
time
the
that I see us getting
Palestinians.
bombed, we're the sacrificial lambs in the world that are too cowardly to stand up against it themselves are cheering
Yeah,
on as my people are slaughtered.
yes.
So why don't we get to the streets and go up there and march against our own damn oligarchs? Where are the
We
people in
do.
Qatar? Where are the people in Saudi? Yeah, they did too. And they showed up in the streets against their own government despite being mowed down by AK-47s. That's how brave the
Yes,
Iranian people are.
yes.
So they are brave and
Oh,
they do have reserve. And I do agree that sanctions we've had, this would be the fourth regime change if they do another one. This would be the fourth one. And we know that the Western powers don't have, most Iranians, I'm not going to speak for all of them, most Iranians understand the West doesn't have their best interest at heart. They've got two boots on their neck, two boots.
yeah.
The one boot, though, that they're standing up against, the Western Empire, I am cheering that on. But it does feel like the people are almost being glorified to the point that it's like we have to be the sacrificial lambs for it. And even if Iran gets completely flattened, people are just glad to see someone stand up against the West. And as a person who has family there, it's very, very, it's such a hard thing to watch, because people are saying no ceasefire. They have to finish the job. Who's going to be their allies in this? Who's going to come in and help them do this? How much of there's already 2 million people displaced in Tehran. 2 million people. Because they blew up the refinery, there's people that are going to have
Black lung disease and all that shit.
black lung disease. Yeah. And And they called it the Iraq War syndrome when our soldiers, and it caused cancer for the rest of their lives. So there's people that the rest of their lives are already going to be impacted, and that could, die from this within a matter of weeks or months, just from that alone. So I don't think we've quite seen the fallout of what it looks like. But like I said, I'm completely glad that there is a country standing up against the onslaught and the abuse of the West. I mean, right now we have cut everything. Cuba, the Cuban people are under duress because of the lunatic West. And there's one other thing I want to say, and then I'll shut up. But I'm working on a huge article right now about how they are trying to make Israel the heart of the military industrial complex in the tech industry. So all these companies are starting to move their headquarters to Israel. There was a meeting 4 months before Operation Epic Fury, where they were discussing the fact that they were planning on striking Iran within a few months, and how much money the heads of Palantir were there bragging about how much money they were going to make.
Yeah.
And you know what? I do appreciate that in the short term, they're going to cause a lot of damage and destruction, and a lot of people are going to suffer. But that plan of turning Ziohel into some sort of like little hub, it's delusional. It's delusional. It's never going to happen. So it's very telling that they still think that that's a possibility. Would you rather, Peter? Maybe were we going to talk about the Cuba thing at all, or no?
We can.
Zeynab just brought it up.
But I wanted to, we will in a minute. I wanted to address this first. And one of the reasons why I think that Iran is so far ahead of the US at this point is because Trump is now trying to saber rattle all these other countries in NATO to say, hey, listen, you totally have to help me with opening up the Strait of Hormuz. And the other countries like, I ain't doing shit. What, are you nuts? I'm not getting involved in this. You brought this on yourselves. And I truly believe that a lot of these countries have been looking for an excuse to get away from the West, particularly the US and Israel, and now they have their opportunity. And I've been saying this to my fellow Americans. If we do not break away from Israel, Israel will drag us to hell with them. That's where we're going. And this is a prime example of that. What's he going to do? Blow up the Strait of Hormuz? Yeah, that's going to solve the problem. Then it will really be the end of American empire as we know it. I mean, I really feel like we're heading there already. And so through the Financial Times, he says, wealthy individuals pull $10 billion from private credit funds in a good night for one battle after another. Again, this is all relatable to this idea that on the one hand, if you're going to warn NATO allies that you have to help, but they're not going to help, what are you going to do next? Are you going to start bombing their countries too? Trump had an 8-minute call with the Financial Times last night when he said Europe and China were the main beneficiaries of oil and gas exports traveling through the narrow waterway off the southern coast of Iran, and should therefore help the military campaign to reopen it. It's only appropriate that people who are the beneficiaries of the strait will help to make sure that nothing bad happens here. If there's no response, or if it's a negative response, I think it will be very bad for the future of NATO. Oh, he's been saying that for a while, hasn't he? Iran, in effect, shut the strait after the U.S. and Israel launched their war more than 2 weeks ago, sparking fears of a new oil price shock for the global economy. Oil prices rose again on Monday after ending last week above $100 a barrel. Brent crude, the international benchmark, is currently up 1.6% at $104.73 a barrel. The U.S. president expressed particular frustration with Britain's response so far to the conflict. Again, this is what happens when elections have actual consequences, like the Green Party, the one party in the UK that said we are not supporting Israel under any circumstances. And now you win, and the consensus is, yeah, we're not getting involved in this shit, so what do you want them to do? The people are speaking. They don't want this. Asked to specify the help he needs from NATO, the U.S. president said, whatever it takes. He added that allies should send minesweepers, of which Europe possesses many more than the U.S. He also implied he wanted European commando teams or other military help to eliminate bad actors based on Iran's southern shore with drones and naval mines. What in the hell does he think is going to happen here?
I know what I think is going to happen. I think that every single Marine that goes over there is not even going to get there, and they're all coming back in body bags. That's what's going to happen. They're not going to make it there. And every military person has said this. So, Zeynab, thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, was it Chris Murphy said in the readout that they got from the DOW, the Department of War, it stated that they weren't even prepared for the Strait of Hormuz, despite generals warning about it. So they've had 30 years. They've had 30 years to reroute pipes, systems through Saudi Arabia down to Oman, or on the other side of the Gulf to go out into the Arabian Sea and into the Gulf of Oman, and they didn't. They didn't. They could have had alternative routes. Instead, they thought, we'll just bully Iran forever with sanctions, and they won't do anything in this region. They won't do anything. They'll just keep letting us pass, despite the fact that they can't even utilize the Strait of Hormuz fully for their own economy and their own people. That's what happened, essentially. It's like you said earlier, it's the arrogance. It's the
Is
arrogance.
Zeynab Iranian originally? My understanding, let me get this right. You're half, right? Your dad's Iranian, right? Okay. All right.
My mom's
You tell it.
Appalachian. My baba's directly from Iran. He migrated here in '79. And I do have a lot of family, aunts, uncles, cousins that still live there. So, and I have several cousins that traveled back and forth.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I haven't been able to visit because of restrictions and other things. Would love to, though. But I'm very familiar because I have a lot of family that are.